All right, council at 6 o'clock, so I will call the order June 21st, 2022 meeting of the West Richland City Council. Order at 6 p.m. Before we get to the roll call, I'll ask Stephanie to read our hybrid meeting ground rules and then call the roll, if you would, please, Stephanie.
All right, thank you. Tonight's meeting will be held in person with a virtual meeting component. If you are participating virtually, please make sure the name shown at the bottom of your video view is the name you would like the mayor to use. You can change this by right-clicking on the three dots in the upper corner of your video view and clicking Rename. Audience members present in the council chambers will be called upon first during public comment periods. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. For those of you joining us virtually, when the mayor asks for public comments, please virtually raise your hand if you wish to speak. To virtually raise your hand, click on Participants and then click on Raise Hand. If you are participating by phone only, press *9 to raise your hand. All right, roll call. Brent Gary.
Here.
Richard Bloom.
Here.
Fred Brink.
Here.
David Fetto.
Here.
May Hayes. Here. John Smart.
Here.
Ken Stoker.
Here.
And Councilmember Moran is attending the AWC conference.
Have a motion to excuse Councilmember Moran this evening.
Move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, council. And I'll ask Councilmember Smart to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Council, the agenda is before you this evening. Councilmember Bloom has requested we move item 6C off the consent agenda, so we will move that to regular agenda under item 8A. Have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please.
I move to approve the agenda as amended. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, council. That leads us to the presentations this evening. Tonight, we have Chief Grego here to introduce our newest officer. And I'm going to just start with Roman K, and we'll have Chief go ahead and make the pronunciation of the last name, and then he can be corrected by Officer K when he gets done with it. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
okay, well,
Thank you, Council. So tonight, I have the privilege and honor to introduce one of our newest team members. He just graduated the academy. It's Roman Kalinkadiris. It's like, that's close enough. Yeah. Before I start with his bio tonight, I just wanted to say that the commitment of our officers is pretty unreal these days. I think we have a wonderful team. An example of this is when we hired Roman, we had to wait for him to attend the academy. I think it was like 5 or 6 months. Was about that right? It was about a half a year almost. So we actually hired him later on in the year. So while he was waiting for his first day of employment with us, he was approached by another agency and they were promising him all kinds of stuff to start right now. And he did not. He gave me a call and said, "Hey, I got this phone call." And I said, "Well, you have to do what you have to do. I'm not going to make decisions for you." And he did. He decided to stick with us. So I just wanted to point out the commitment that this officer already has to serving our community. But Roman was born in Russia, but grew up in Greece, owning and working in his own family restaurant. Roman attended high school in Greece, graduating in 2012. After high school, Roman obtained a technical certification in electronics and communications. In 2013, Roman moved to the United States when he became an employer of the FedEx Freight as a truck driver. In 2018, Roman attended Yakima Valley Community College and learned language and took college level classes toward his AA, which he plans on completing in the near future. Roman is fluent in Russian and Greek and is working on learning Spanish. In 2020, Roman attended and completed the Yakima County Reserve Law Enforcement Academy, which is really a cool thing to start. I started as a reserve officer too, and it really gets you in the door. He served as a reserve officer for 2 years with SELA until being hired with West Richland PD. Roman has 2 kids, Milan and London, 2 and 4. Unfortunately, they're not with us tonight. But now we'll move on to reading the oath and swearing. I state your name.
I, Roman Keeling Caridis,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Washington,
of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and
and impartially perform
and discharge
and discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
for the city of West Richland,
for the city of West Richland,
Washington,
Washington,
according to law
according to law
and the best of my ability.
and the best of my ability. Thank you everyone so much for welcoming here. West Richland. Everybody's asking, West Richland, what is this? I'm like, this is one of the safest places in the United States. You should know by now. So I'm just blessed to be part of this family. And when I'm referring to family, I'm not referring just to the police department. I'm referring to the city employees. They have welcomed me so well. And Stephanie is smiling right now. Stephanie, thank you so much for everything you have done for me. And to all of you, again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to build my career here in West Richland and stick around for a while. And when I'm by myself, you're more than welcome to come and ride with me. Thank you.
Roman, if you. Go ahead and come up and introduce council. Now, Roman, you know, we've got a brand new police facility and it has a great big kitchen in it. And so I think probably the next thing will be coming as a lunch or a dinner of your choice for staff and council members. And by golly, we look forward to it. Just give us a shopping list and Stephanie will fill it for you. And then oh, the cutter thingies.
Well, no. You're. I've spent some time in Greece.
Roman, thank you so much. Look forward to working with you for years to come, and I appreciate your commitment to the city and sticking it out to be one of our finest, because I believe we do have some of the finest officers in the entire region, if not the entire state. So thank you very much and look forward to many more years with you on board. Okay, thank you. Now you guys can either hang out for the rest of the fun time or we'll kick you loose for not a gyro, but a what?
A hero.
Hero. Okay. Okay, council. Moving on to our consent agenda this evening, which includes the payment of the bills. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting, June 7th, 2022. Motion to award Belmont Business District Improvement Project. Resolution 3622, resolution to set public hearing for vacation 006-2022. Resolution 3722, resolution to set a public hearing for vacation 007-2022. Resolution 3822, security and improvement agreement with Ranch Land Townhouses. And then final plat approval of Ranch Land Townhouses, file number plat 005-2022. And if there's anyone from the audience who would like to speak to our consent agenda this evening, please come to the podium, state your name and residency for the record. See no one in-house here. Stephanie, do you see anyone virtually who would like to comment on our consent agenda this evening? If so, virtually, raise your virtual hand or *9 if you're by phone. I don't see anyone virtually. Stephanie, do you?
I do not.
Very good. With that, we'll move on to our first opportunity for citizen public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you would like to provide comments, please come to the podium, state your name and residency for the record. Oh, my bad. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I was so excited to hear from somebody I haven't heard from for 2.5 years. I just went right to the front of the line. Go ahead and come on up.
Peggy Panisco, still at 901 Bombing Range Road for almost 50 years now. So some of you know that I had the lead for the election to have Mid-Columbia do our library. I've been here, we had the bookmobile, we had our little West Richland library, and now we have Mid-Columbia. If the cost is still based on valuation of our city, the bill must be really high. We need, and actually I'd like you to relook at some of the options for West Richland, go back and pick up, I have the consultant's report with me, the consultant that was in 2015, I believe, who did some options for us. Before the meeting, the mayor said, you kids are already working on this, and I'm happy to hear that because we need to make some changes. We're in a digital world. The kids have gone to school for a couple of years now without having to go to the library. Many of the colleges and junior colleges at CBC, they require students to do online research. So our world has changed, and I think we need to make some changes and bring the costs down. I think we're not a good steward of our money to continue with Mid-Columbia. Thank you very much.
Just a clarification, staff is working internally administrative wise at this point, and sometime soon we'll probably be having that discussion with council. So at this point, it's all administratively, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone virtually that you see, Stephanie? With their hand up or star up?
I do not see anyone.
With that, we will go ahead and move on to ordinances, resolutions, motions, and public hearings. And as Councilmember Bloom's request, we've moved this item off the consent agenda to 8A. Before we go for any discussion, I will ask Eric Mendenhall, Community Development Director, to present a staff report. His staff who would normally present this and discuss this is home. Also, Eric, you got the call on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, this evening before you is an ordinance relating to inspections and testing requirements for site sewer services. This pertains to West Richland Municipal Code 13-12-010. And our building official, Todd Blevins, noticed that there is a requirement for us to inspect the site sewers, but there wasn't a standard on how to perform that inspection. And so this code is to amend this regulation to install some pressure test that allows for the system to be under pressure during an inspection to make sure that there's no leaks within that side sewer. So the side sewer starts out at the street and goes to the house. The building code kicks in once it's at the house and covers the entire home. So during a normal plumbing inspection, you're pressurizing your home, making sure that there's no leaks in the home, that all the bathtubs seal when they plug them so they can hold water, that the that the pipes don't leak. But there was no standard on how to perform this inspection on the side sewer. So the proposed code addresses that. I've talked with the inspectors about the frequency on how many times they've seen these side sewers fail during their tenure as inspectors. And the two inspectors I talked to today, one had 17 years of experience, the other one had 4 years of experience. And the 4-year individuals has seen it a couple of times. The 17-year individual has seen it a dozen times where they would fail. These fail, when they do fail, they do cost the homeowner tens of thousands of dollars to go in, remove the contaminated soil, fix the piping, and the piping what typically causes it to have a massive failure is that trees and bushes, their roots will go to that leak and go into the pipe. I was talking to Roscoe, Public Works Director, today about it. His concern is they've seen this is where the root to the tree would go and follow that pipe all the way down into the sewer main out in the street and cause problems there as well. And this can cause, like I said, tens of thousands of dollars of damage for the homeowner to have to cover the cost to fix. And this is a $25 builder cost to buy the material that's needed for the clean out. And then talking with the building official, he believes it's about a 30-minute to install and perform the test. So that's the additional time that's required for this inspection. To perform the inspection, they typically get an inflatable plug, stick it in on both ends of the clean outs, pressurize that system, make sure that there's no water that's leaking, and then they're able to remove those inflatable plugs. And the inspection also includes showing that they've removed those plugs and that they've capped and glued the caps on the end. So I believe that this is an important inspection that's needed. Will save our citizens the time and headache that can come from one of these side sewers from leaking and causing some expensive repairs for the homeowner. It's minimal cost up front that I think can save lots of money down the road. So this is a proposal that we are requesting council approve.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Councilmember Bloom, we go a little bit out of our normal order here. I asked for a motion after we have this discussion, but you brought this my attention to pull it off, have a discussion. So if you'd like to ask questions or have discussion. please feel
Well,
free to do so.
I guess my concern is you don't have a clean out in the street. So you're only doing a very short distance from, typically the only connection point you have is relatively close to the house. And it's not at the edge of the property. So if all you're testing is maybe 20 feet of pipe that was put in by a totally different contractor. It was done by the civil contractor, whoever does that. It's not the plumber that does it. The plumber just hooks up to it. And so the guy, and you're going to do it after the house is built. And this could be under the slab. So I guess I look at it that, yes, it makes you feel good that you don't have it, but as I know, I just recently had my water meter moved, and guess what? Roots run down pipes. The biggest damn root was on Roscoe's pipe, not my pipe, but roots run down pipes, and whether whether the leak caused the root to be there or the root caused the leak to be there, historically, it's not there. I see this as an added burden on the contractors of little if no value. And that's, that's just my point. It doesn't add value to the process, it just confuses it. So that's why I bring it up. It wasn't put in the code. A lot of civil work isn't covered by codes because when you have a pipe that may not be glued, and I brought a show and tell, but it's put together, it could leak. I grant you it can leak, but it's buried. It's not going to come apart. And it's not a pressurized line. And so, I may be the oldest person on the council, but I go back to the days when it was terracotta pipe put together for a sewer. And so I just see this as an added burden on the contractors, which is probably going to cost the average homeowner another $200 for just time and inconvenience.
Councilman Bloom has voiced his concerns, so I'll ask for a motion and we'll continue further discussion or questions amongst council.
I move to adopt ordinance 12-22, amending WRMC section 13.12.010 related to inspection and test requirements for side sewer services.
Second.
Motion second, council. Any further questions for Eric or even Public Works' experience with pipes and roots or conversation amongst yourself? Councilman DeFebo.
So I do have, is this is gonna be on all new construction? Is that correct? Or is this gonna be, right?
Yep.
So to Councilmember Bloom's point, is there a process to put this in place once the lines have been dropped into the ground prior to slabs being poured and walls being put in?
Being buried.
Right. Can we do something to have it done prior to that?
That's what this code does, is it
Oh, okay.
establishes it so that we're doing it before they bury the pipe, so that we can see and inspect to make sure that there isn't anything that's leaking. There is several different phases of plumbing. You've got your initial underground plumbing that gets done when you have a home built. And then you have your final plumbing that's done once all of the fixtures and things are put into the home. So this would be one of the inspection that's on the front end.
Oh, okay. That's what was
Buddy from our virtual side, has any comments?
I've got a question.
Councilmember Smart, go ahead.
So, Eric, there's a plumbing inspection now, and these sewer lines get inspected before they're backfilled. Already, it's a visual inspection. It's not a pressurized line inspection, but tell me what's been happening for the last 70 years here in West Richland. I mean, or how about just the last 10? I mean, when you build a new house and there's a sewer line that comes from the house and hooks up to the street, surely somebody takes a look at it and makes sure that the grading is proper. And there's usually evidence of a glued joint. Most people are using pink or purple glue these days.
So I'll take a stab at it. So when we put subdivisions, when the developer put subdivisions and built a road, the sewer stubs are stubbed off to the right of way line and capped. We do an air pressure test on the sewer mains, which also tests that piece of it that's stubbed to the proper line. The gap area that's not being inspected or tested is from that point to the clean out outside the house. The plumbing code deals with the clean out into the house, but there's a gap there. So looking down a trench, and these sewer lines are 8 feet deep, you know, it's not Public Works looking at these private sewer lines. Sewer services. So we're not looking at, somebody can look in a trench, but looking down 8 feet, you're not going to know whether it's connected. Basically, what this would do is they would lay that line where that connection point where it was stubbed out with the original belt. They put another Y in or T and be able to put a plug in at that point. The clean out that's outside your house, they'd fill full of water to the top of the rim, wait 15 minutes to see if the water dropped. If it didn't, that tells you you've got a airlight thing, pull the plug, put a cap on the new T where the connection was made, and then be able to backfill it. So it's
So you're really just looking at a couple, in
A
some
T.
cases, 3 feet of head pressure.
yeah, all you're just checking to make sure there's not a visible leak. The water does not drop.
And then you have to go in and cap that T after you've done this test.
Yep, and remove the plug.
And I'm sure that there's got to be there's also some procedure for checking the grade of this pipe, right? I mean, it has to be plumber's grade, so it actually drains. Somebody's got to go down there with a level and check it, or how does that happen? No, it doesn't happen. Wow.
Not in Public Works.
Wow.
So the building code stops at the edge of the house,
Yeah, I see.
and the state never adopted the section of the plumbing code that went from the house to the street. So there's this no man's land, and that's what we're trying to address tonight, is this no man's land of, okay, we need to inspect this to make sure that when the toilet gets flushed, it's not gonna end up in the dirt in the ground. That's
Yeah.
gonna potentially be a problem. And, you know, Davin Diaz, Mr. Bloom at the Ben Franklin Transit, or sorry, he's with BF Cog. So he's with BF Cog, he's a resident here, and he had that same issue happen to him and at his home, and had to, again, it's a really dirty mess when it does happen, and it requires material to potentially be removed off-site and bring new clean fill in because of the dirty fill that was there.
But Councilmember Smart, there's not typically an issue with grade. When you look at the house, the sewer is typically 8 feet below the street, so.
Gonna make its way there.
You can't get there without going downhill.
So understood, but
saying.
I would just say that, okay, so, but the point of testing at the property line, where the stub's coming out from the sewer and the house construction sewer meets it, that's not usually 8 feet. That's usually,
Where it comes outside the house,
Where it comes-
you're probably a couple feet to get under the footing of the
Yeah.
house.
right.
I'd say it's 3 feet, 4 feet.
So I don't know, I just like Councilmember Bloom brought this example of the pipe. I have personally had the experience of laying irrigation pipe above ground just for water shrubs, right? And in the course of a few hundred feet of line, I have actually forgotten the blue joint on. And these of course are pressurized lines. Well, I gotta tell you that line, that particular line lasted for 2 years at 60 PSI, roughly 50, 60 PSI without falling apart. And then one day it did and made a heck of a mess. So I start to wonder on the technical side of only having a couple feet of head pressure. I mean, this would be the most gross disconnected line that would show up. If you had a PVC or ABS pipe that was plugged together without glue, it's likely not going to leak. It's been my experience, but hey, I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm wondering if there's any alternative, if there's any way to pressurize this, or if that's ever done. I see varying situations where in some cases the head pressure will be a couple feet, and in other cases it could be 8 feet. I'm not sure that the couple feet is going to really show you anything. Maybe there needs to be if you're going to do this, and I'm not saying I disagree necessarily. I think it's onerous, but I would say that it should be done. Should normalize the process so that there's an 8-foot head on each test, whether you only have 2 feet of head naturally or not. I just think from an engineering standpoint, 2 feet ahead, that's only 1 PSI. It's really not going to get you an indication of leak, even if it's not blue. I don't know. So please remind us how much what the cost we're charging for this test.
Not an additional cost for the inspection, it's just an additional inspection.
Okay, so it's just going to be a cost of contract and passes on.
Yeah, and this was brought to my attention that this isn't getting tested. Asked if it's standard. Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco are not requiring this static test, but you go to Walla Walla. Walla Walla College Place require it. Up in Spokane requires it. Chelan. I asked him. He gave me a list of probably off the top of his head 20 other agencies that require this hydrostatic test. It's just normal, except in this area. There's nobody doing it in this area. So it brought to my attention. Felt it was important. Yeah. Either way.
And it doesn't happen on every home where it fails. Like I said, in the 17 years Mr. Blevins has been doing the inspections, he's seen a dozen of these things where they've had. And that's what those are the ones that he's had to go out and check on, right?
These are the failures after they were built and buried, or yeah.
I see.
All right.
I
I
see.
appreciate the conversation.
I see Councilmember Brink has got his hand up. Councilmember
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, I missed part of the conversation there, Mr. Mendenhall. What was the additional cost associated with the performance of this test? Did you?
Materials are about $25 to buy the clean out that would be installed. And then it's a 15-minute test, and I'm told it takes about 15 minutes to add that extra clean out when you're installing it with the rest of your line. So that would be the additional cost.
All right, thank you. I have not had any personal experience with a side sewer failure in the 5 or 6 homes that I've owned. However, I do know an individual that has, and it would seem to me that the minimal cost involved with this is outweighed by the potential cost for a failure which is either not discovered during construction or is a result of faulty construction. So I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brink. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Councilman Bloom, I didn't know if that was an old one or new one. There we go. Thank you.
Just for clarification, so an additional cleanout would be installed at your property line or at that point, which typically would be 8 feet down?
It could be.
Could be. So we're talking about more work with shoring. And
Which should already be there if they're installing the pipe
well,
properly.
I grant you that. And this wouldn't rise up. It would just simply be capped after the end, which could be, which wouldn't, the cap wouldn't be tested. So, I mean, they're two, well, no, yeah, 2 joints are not going to be tested. I, you know, to say that I know people that have had roots get into their sewer lines and I agree that it happens, but I'm not quite sure I understand this catastrophic failure mode. And that's where it comes down to. I see it as as I stated in my email I sent you, I see it as a solution. I think a visual inspection, if that's what is in the code now, is adequate to meet the need without a pressure test, which is of minimal. And still my concern comes down to is Murphy always says you do a pressure test, you stick a plug in and the plug gets stuck. And now you have a bigger problem. So anyway, I see this as an added expense with minimal value.
One last question. So who is it that, so does the building inspector have to witness this test? Is that?
That's who would be performing the test.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, and these are usually what, 4 or 6 inch lines coming from a
Yeah,
house?
these are your main output from the home. So it's going to be 4 or 6 inch.
Yeah. And so the test itself may be, a quarter of an hour or something, but that fitting is going to cost these days, probably $80. And installing it's an addition, and there will be 2 joints that won't be tested. I have another question. What is the inspection routine for the trench itself? I mean, do we require there to be a sand bed or something like that to protect the pipe, or do we just let people backfill the rocky soil that we have onto these plastic pipes?
It's the property owner's thing, so it's not public works.
So we don't have a code there to see that. That's what kills these pipes over time when the ground shifts and you've got, fist size or bigger boulders sitting against them. Not to mention the encroachment of tree roots, which can almost like smell the water through the plastic. It doesn't have to be leaking. So I guess I'm siding with Mr. Bloom. I think that's his side. I don't see the value in this. I see the value in a good visual inspection and a rapport with our builders. In some cases with this particular code, you could test at literally 1 PSI. And I know for a fact you can test an unglued jointed pipe at 1 PSI and it won't leak probably 8 out of 10 times. So I just don't see that this is good enough to do the job that we're asking it to do. It's not a terrible idea, but I think there needs to be some further development here. Maybe some other ways to make an inspection. And I'm a little bit concerned that we don't have a way to measure the grade on these sewer pipes. I mean, I know it'll get there, but you like not to have standing sewer in a pipe that's not going downhill the whole way. So anyway, all right, that's my comment. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. So Councilmember Hayes.
Yes, I don't have all the knowledge on the sewer pipes and all of that, but I look at it more as a resident. And if I had that option, if we're just looking at a couple $100 to at least put this out there and have this done, I think if I'm buying a new home, I'd much rather pay that up front than pay tens of thousands of dollars if something does happen. It's not the answer to everything, but at least you're doing something to help the homeowners and with their purchase and their new home. So that's just my opinion.
So with that, council, all in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed, same sign, please.
Aye.
Nay.
That's a tie vote.
Okay. Thank you, council. With that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to new business, no unfinished business this evening. And then we have no new business, which is a closed record hearing for Ridge at Candy Mountain Phase 2, a preliminary plat. And with that, I'll ask.
Mr. Mayor, the one thing I felt, it was a tie vote, but since it's non-financial, the mayor has.
Where I was going, but I was following my legal counsel's advice.
I'm sorry, COVID's lasted too long.
No pressure at all. This is something that's been recommended by staff and for good reason. I appreciate the comments on both sides of the fence, but I have to agree with Councilmember Hayes. Anything that we could do to ensure the integrity of somebody's new purchase, I am for that. So my vote would be for passing this resolution. Ordinance, excuse me. 4-3. 4. Very good. With that, I'm going to throw it back to our legal counsel for his opportunity to explain the open public hearing and what it entails. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so break out the notes there. Bronson,
Okay, actually, it's a closed record hearing.
excuse me, close record.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to go over some procedures. So this closed record hearing is for the Ridge at Candy Mountain Phase 2 preliminary plat. As council may know, a closed record public meeting is a public meeting that's conducted by the council where council is asked to render a final decision based on the recommendation of the planning commission. And it's an open record, a public hearing, but it's closed. It's open to the public, but it's closed. And in this case, no new evidence or information may be submitted except the responses to questions by council to clarify. And in this case, the only parties of record are the applicants, which is Mr. Brad Beecham. And the only other party of record is Chris Klinger. And since this is a closed record hearing, there's some procedures I want to go over with council. The appearance of fairness doctrine applies to this hearing. This doctrine requires that the hearing be fair in form, substance, and appearance. And it must not only be fair, it must also appear to be fair. And so therefore I have a few questions for council. First, is any member of council engaged in communication with opponents or proponents regarding this issue outside of the public hearing process?
No.
Will any member of council obtain any financial benefit or suffer financial loss as a result of the outcome of this hearing?
No.
No.
Is there any member of council who believes that he or she cannot hear or consider this application in a fair and objective manner?
No.
Is there any member of the public, either proponent or opponent of this matter, who objects to the participation of any of the council members in hearing this matter? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bronson. With that, I'll ask our associate planner, Alicia Ransom, to provide tonight's staff report. If you would, please, Alicia.
Good evening. This is the preliminary plat for the Red Jet Candy Mountain Phase 2. They had a public hearing on June 9th in front of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommended that the council approve the preliminary plat. Some details about the application. Brad Beecham is the property owner, and the applicant is BMB Development Inc., which is a company that Brad Beecham owns. The engineering firm associated with the project is Harms Engineering, and the proposal is to divide 10.24 acres into 25 single-family residential lots and 1 open space tract. It will also include utilities for the properties, including water, stormwater, and sewer, and electric services, and telecommunications. The property owner submitted this back in fall of 2021, but the submittal was actually deemed complete for processing on March 9th. There were some things with geotechnical reports that they had to provide for the property is located in an erosion and geologic hazard area. The geotechnical report came back that they could mitigate for those hazards and by following the recommendations of the geotechnical report in both the site grading and construction of the single family homes. The property details and the proposed application and associated attachments are included in the Planning Commission staff report packet. Sorry, I'm going through this. Some things to take note of: the property. This was noticed, sent to the surrounding property owners. We received some public comments about it, mostly about traffic and impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Those were discussed in the Planning Commission. I would direct you to the Planning Commission meeting minutes, the draft minutes from that meeting for a further information on those topics that were brought up. The property went through the SEPA process. We received some comments about particularly the archaeological potential archaeological findings on the property, and the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, as well as the Yakima Nation, requested the property owner do an archaeological study and provide those findings to the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation and the other requesting parties. They will be doing that prior to final plat. Another thing to note is the parks mitigation that they will be required to do. They will be constructing a trailhead to the south of the property. Yes, let me think about that. I don't have the map in front of me. I believe it's to the south of the property, but it's up the hill. That would be north. That would be north. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's several different maps and excuse me. So to the north of the property, they will be constructing a trailhead, which they'll be partnering with Benton County. So there'll be an additional trailhead to Candy Mountain. And the ownership of that trailhead will go to Benton County, and they'll maintain that. The planning commission did recommend the approval of the preliminary plat. The property owner will have 5 years to complete the required improvements or bond for them. And apply for final plat. Staff recommend, well, I don't think that's part of that. So their alternatives are accepting the planning commission recommendation, modifying the planning commission recommendation, or denying the preliminary plat.
Thank you. My apologies for walking away from you a couple of times and distracting you. With that, council, may I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat number 016-2021, the Ridge at Candy Mountain Phase 2? One of the things I went for you.
I move to approve preliminary plat number PLAT 016-2021, the Ridge at Candy Mountain Phase 2, based upon the listed findings of fact, easy for me to say, conclusions of law and conditions of approval as recommended by the planning commission.
Okay.
Second, council, any questions of Alicia? Or conversations amongst yourselves? Councilmember Feta?
Yes, I got a couple things. So in here, it talks about giving credit towards impact fees for the building of this trail, this parking lot.
Mhm.
That's not in West Richland land, right? That's Benton County's land. So we're gonna
Yes.
use basically city funds to improve non-city lands.
So the developer will be doing the improvements.
And we're gonna give them a credit towards their impact fees for the costs of putting this in place.
Yes.
Speak a little closer.
Up to, there we go. The diodes are cold. So the property is located in the city's urban growth area. The property is owned by the county. And so the idea is that we could get this trailhead to the park or to the, Candy Mountain, which is a county park, but the city residents enjoy it quite a bit. And this would give us the ability to have that trailhead on this side of the mountain accessible to the city residents and owned and maintained by the county.
So then who's responsible for getting the cost to put this in place? That we're gonna use that number to offset the impact fees, right? So are we gonna do any fact checking, make sure that the numbers are padded in any way? I'm not saying that he's gonna do that, but hey, I'm a numbers guy, right? So my
I
thought
appreciate it.
process is all about,
Well, we do it with each developer when they come in with their parks. We did it with Aho when they built the 7-acre park, verifying that the numbers pass the sniff test. So our public works engineers take a look at those numbers to make sure that they're legitimate and not cushioned.
okay, perfect. And then one last thing. So in the meeting, in the minutes from the planning commission, there's some pretty severe allegations by the Klingers. We done any fact checking one, and what can we do to keep B&B from maybe doing some of this stuff again? They claim property damage, large trucks turning in the driveway, damage to their rock wall. The ledge, right? I don't know, I didn't go verify it, but
That might be something that we could have Bronson weigh in on in regards to he said, she said in
Right.
a minutes.
Yeah, so that's obviously you hit it right on the head. Those are allegations. And this is not the first time that citizens have expressed concerns about a development. That's why it goes through the planning commission and they look at all the facts and then they make the recommendation. And this is the recommendation that they've made based on weighing Mr. Flinger's concerns and the developers.
Yeah, not being at the planning commission meeting, I just want to make sure at least they were heard and done something, at least just to make sure that they're not taken care of, but at least that they were considered. And they said there's a couple of pretty serious allegations in their letter.
And any of those things, correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, and any of those things would be civil matters between two parties.
That's correct.
I think that was all my notes. Thank you.
Councilman Bloom?
I guess I have a couple of questions. There's an aerial view in the packet,
Yes.
which shows a relatively large amount of disturbed land. Was that regraded as prep for this?
There were a few things that there was some activity that was going on. There were some notices of violation that was also needed to be factored into the geotechnical report, the fill that was placed on the property, moved around, et cetera. So that is addressed in the geotechnical report and will be resolved with the additional grading.
So that was not part of the study. Correct.
It occurred prior to the geotechnical study, and that was partially why they were required to do a new geotechnical report, in addition to the erosion hazard and seismic issues.
My other question, probably Mr. Slade can answer better. This is right next to our water tank there. What kind of water pressure will these houses have?
So that Candy Mountain Reservoir is pressure zone 4. And we have a booster pump there that actually pumps it up the hill to pressure zone 6. And then back, there's a PRV vault that brings it down to pressure zone 5.
So it's
Which
not
is above-
static out of the tank.
No, that is actually where the pump pumps out of. And so there's 2 pressure zones. Pressure zone 5 is basically the homes right above the canal there. And then as you go up, I think some of this is in pressure zone 6. I don't have the map in front of me.
Well,
But
I
it
guess-
was set up for that, and we actually own property further up Candy Mountain for a pressure zone 6 reservoir that I don't know if that's going to be required or not. We're going to do some modeling and have them look at that.
Well, that was my concern. I saw the requirement for the fire 1,500 gallon fire main capability. That's where my concern comes in. Is that pump emergency supply? I'm, Candy Mountain has burned. I will not. And so fire is my bigger concern here. For,
Yeah.
development.
So that booster pump station, if I'm correct, it's got 2 jockey pumps with some bladder tanks for low use because it had to work for the first home that was built up there. And then that build out. And so I think there's 3 other pumps in there that turn on for
No, but
meet the
they're
maximum
all- they're
date.
all just powered by the grid.
Correct. Yes, there's pigtails for backup power, mobile generator to run it. And then there's 2 fire flow pumps in there in that booster pump station to meet the fire flow requirements that was built initially. So it was built for the first house and to serve the hundreds of homes that go up the side of the hill.
Quick question on the cultural and archaeological resource survey. I'm just curious, what's that? That's just a surface survey? And how much do these things cost? I'm curious.
I'm not aware of how much it costs. The developers typically keep that, they redact that from the information that they provide us with. They typically do a certain number of holes, similar to a geotechnical report. I don't know if that's a good comparison, but they do a grid and they do examinations in that grid, and so they go step by step through the property.
All right, thank you. That's the only question. I have. Thanks.
And Councilmember Smart, we're
Yes.
seeing a lot more activity of the tribes requesting these.
I see that.
And nice other things with Public Works. it's nice to do these evaluation ahead of time, know what to expect, have a discovery plan in case you do, so everybody's informed, rather than going in there when you put the sewer line in and, you know, dig through something like happened down at Columbia Point. So, but they're more active in making comments and requesting these, especially in areas where they haven't had them, you know, completed before. So we did it for Cooperative Way, for that road project, and actually the ranch did it for the Heights of Red Mountain. So they're becoming more and more.
But they actually have to find an actual artifact or bones or something to be an excuse. I mean, years and years ago, I've heard of other stranger finds had to do with non-physical items. We're not, I'm just curious to know if you've heard anything. I mean, this
I
is
don't think
really
we've had
just
any
a,
West Richland that showed anything, even when we did it with the Gateway project. We haven't found anything yet.
all right, well, just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, council, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Appreciate it. This moves us to our second citizen public comment. And if you'd like to provide comments to council, please come to the podium and state your name and place of residence for the record. And I see no one in the audience. Is there anyone attending virtually who would like to address council tonight? If so, raise your virtual hand or star 9 if you're by phone. Don't see anyone. Stephanie, do you?
I do not see anyone, no.
With that, we're going to go ahead and roll on to staff and council announcements, reports, and comments. Staff, if you have anything, go ahead and raise your hand. Put your envelope up there. Perfect. All right, we'll start with Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to let you know that today I sent out some emails and had conversations with some of the politicians that are running for office right now. I noticed that their signage is getting a little large and proliferated throughout town. So I made some phone calls today and informed some of them that some of their signs either need to be removed because of vision triangle problems or that they needed to obtain a permit. So been in communication with them and they've been pretty responsive and willing to address the situation and get things going.
Thank you. And Roscoe.
Just two quick things. So update on Collins Road. So council passed that ordinance. We did get some quotes in to do the striping for the lane diet, and the signs got delivered today. So I'll be working with the maintenance guys. See if it actually gets striped this week or it'll be first of next week. And then the signs will probably be next week. And then once installed, we'll go ahead and put some counters out to collect some data to see how effective they are and get that to the chief so that we can see if some additional behavior changing is needed to get people to follow the new speed limit. So update on that. The other thing is we had a few people ask about the flooding down at the Yakima River is back down. It came up very quickly and back down. The silt's been cleaned up and the pathway's back open underneath the bridge again. The restroom's not open yet. They're doing probably still got another this week and next week to clean up the vandalism and then trying to get that bathroom open up. Because now the weather's warming up, we'll have the tubers back in the river again. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
And Stephanie, you beat the chief up, so I'll let you go ahead.
I was just going to remind council that the July 5th regular city council meeting has been canceled. So our next regular meeting will be July 19th.
And then I believe you also sent out site tour information.
I did for those council members that wish to participate in the Hanford tour that was offered. I sent an email out earlier today requesting your preference of time and date, and also for you to submit your full name that's listed on your ID for credentials with DOE.
That reminder was for council, so if you could respond quickly, then we'll have that information sent to Rich Beal and he can set it up for. Chief.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. Just want to give you an update tonight with the recent retirements of the department. I think you were briefed last time. We're 5 down right now at the police department. We're working on our staffing levels. We've also promoted 3 new sergeants. We will have a ceremony in July for them. So that date will be announced soon. That's all I have there.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Moving on, we'll get into council reports or comments and Councilmember Fennell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, real quick, there was some confusion last meeting. There's 5 open positions, but there's like 6 or so. Well, now that one last that were in some stage of either coming over or in the academy. Are there 11 total openings, vacancies?
No, there's 5.
So, and
So-
those are already filled then,
Yes,
based with all the people that are in the academy and laterals.
Yes, sir. The others are in training right now.
Okay.
And they should be clearing in the next few weeks, most of them. So.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing last meeting, whether or not there were 5 more openings than just the ones that are, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that I want to say is Stephanie also sent out an email today to all council. Michael Novakovich is leaving Visit Tri-Cities. His going away party is the 29th. I'll be attending tomorrow board meeting, but if you haven't been around Michael outside of, I don't think we've actually had one person here since he took over Visit Tri-Cities. Very, very dynamic person. He's done a great thing for Visit Tri-Cities and for tourism within the city, within the Tri-Cities. He's definitely been missed by the Tri-City board and by the staff. But if you're able to make it out there next week to wish him well, he greatly appreciate it. He's going to Columbia Industries.
Great job for them over there. Sorry, so, yeah, he brought a whole new dynamic to
Sure did.
Tri-Cities. He's the man for sure. Councilmember Hayes.
Yes, I just want to remind everybody, we have a Speed Fest coming up in 2 days. It's going to be so exciting. And a huge thanks goes out to the police department and the city for all the support that you've had with the raceway and with merging these 2 events, Hogs and Dogs and Full Desert Nights. And it just, we have a swap meet, we have vendors, we have the food trucks, we have a kids zone. So we're trying to make it a truly family event for the whole community. And it's just overwhelming with the support that the Chamber and the Red Mountain Event Center have received from everybody, like moving forward with this. So looking forward to it. So I invite everybody to come out and enjoy it, and it's gonna be lots of fun.
And May, I'd like to thank you for all of your hard work to make sure that this transition goes as smooth as possible in your spare time, I assume. So yes,
Definitely,
thank
yeah.
you very much for working with Red Mountain Event Center and city staff to make this an event that hopefully will be one of many with a lot more fun stuff to come. at the event center. Sprinkling the economic vitality to not only the city of West Richland, but our region as a whole. And Councilmember Blue?
Well, I just wanted to, I was happy to see that Ben Franklin Transit's going to provide shuttle service to the event.
Yes.
But also I'd like to remind everybody that kids ride free. Anyone 18 and under can ride free on the buses. They can get a bus pass online for free, which is good all summer, or you can go to the regular places you get a bus pass. So now with gas prices that I paid over $6 a gallon to fill up my tractor. Anyway, the prices are up. You can tell the kids, well, no, you jumped the bus. So we've had over 14,000 passes given out so far. That was reported, what, 2 weeks ago. So it's catching on, and we just started some increased service this past week. So check it out. The buses are out there.
And the fees for Speed Fest, for adults, it's $1.40. And then for seniors, it's 75 cents. So the prices are really reasonable.
$1.50.
$1.50. Oh, yeah, $1 for, thank you for the correction. But it's been great working with the transit and had several meetings with them out there. And so it's going to be exciting the more people that are coming together to make sure this event.
And I see we have Mayor Pro Tem Brink with his hand up. Sir, floor is yours.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to everyone there within council chambers and those of you that are joining us online. As the mayor mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, Council Member Moran is attending the AWC conference with me. I am taking part in a number of meetings over the next couple days. I'm also part of the Association of Washington City's Education and Training Committee that I'm serving on this year. So we will be looking at additional training and other types of opportunities to give city managers, mayors, council members, and staff additional training or opportunities to improve their skill set. So it's going to be a busy couple days. We have over 100 cities from the 281 cities and towns in Washington State. So there's a lot of good dialogue going on. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Safe travels. Hopefully you have sunshine over there, which you won't get to see because you'll be in your meetings all day. I see Councilman Stoker, you have your hand up, sir. Floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I want to thank Stephanie for reminding us about the July 5th meeting. So with that, I hope to wish everyone a safe and successful, enjoyable Independence Day. Obviously, fireworks season is going to be starting up again. So we've got some pretty smart citizens, and I'm appreciative that they've been able to be responsible with their fireworks, and I hope that we can continue to do that this year as well. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Smart.
And just to feedback on that, I would ask that folks consider reading the Declaration of Independence at your barbecue on 4th of July. I think you'll find it a refreshing and interesting document. You can read it in about 10 minutes. And I like to do that, like to have the kids read it. Declaration of Independence shows us where we came from and why we're here. I won't ask you to read the whole Constitution, but that's another good one to check out. I did want to mention that I had the privilege of accompanying Roscoe to the Good Roads meeting. It was really my first meeting at the Good Roads organization. I thought I'm still in extreme learning mode. There's a lot going on, a lot of different parts and pieces, but we had a great presentation about the new funding that Washington State is emphasizing preservation, I guess, and other projects as well. So it was time well spent, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that organization and how we're impacted by it. So, and how we can leverage it in those relationships. So thanks, Roscoe, and that's all I have.
That, we'll go ahead and conclude our meeting this evening. Adjourn at 7:08. Thank you, council. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.